You're watching TVC Breakfast. The menace of drug abuse and substance abuse have taken a new dimension.
Many youth are now getting involved with little or no remorse. This may be attributed to lack of awareness on the health implication of the drug culture habit. Abiola Sholanke was at a forum organized by Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministry in Lagos.
Substance abuse and the illicit trafficking of drugs have caused more havoc to the society. About 14.3 million people between the ages of 15 and 64 are reported to be using illicit drugs such as cocaine, heroin, cannabis, tramadol, and amphetamines worldwide. It is also worthy of note that 1 in 4 people who abuse these drugs are women. The theme for this year's World Drug Abuse Day, Health for Justice, Justice for Health, underlines the importance of a holistic approach involving health, human rights, criminal justice, and social service institutions.
It's the idea of stigmatization. We think that the nation must get to a point in which we need to understand that substance abuse is a public health issue, and whoever has gone through rehab is like the normal person. It's like a hypertensive patient who still needs management. So we should not ostracize them or deny them admission to the big society. Employment, return to school.
Babatunde Kwelemo used to be a drug addict. It tells me his turning point.
I got into drug at a very tender age. I was just 11, and before long I got hooked. And one thing led to another and another until I became hooked on crack cocaine, and did that for many years. My drug experience and all of that took me about 32, 33 years. Turning point was when I met Dr. Adedeji, and I saw someone who for the first time loved me for who I was, accepted me for who I was, right? And was speaking to me about not stopping my drug use, but about discovering purpose, but about purpose. And so I decided to give it a try. Let me go for this purpose this man is talking about.
The role of parents in curbing the spate of drug abuse is also key in reducing the spread of the menace.
Family is the first, unit of social, organization. The family themselves need to do a lot. We need to be more open. We need to be more observant. We need to take care of the emotional needs of our children. We need to take care of their physical needs. Most of the time what you see is a lot of parents are too busy. They are too busy. So all they do is, what is it you need? They take it, give it to you, and that's all. No, the child has a physical need, he has a spiritual need, he has emotional needs. Those three has to be taken care of.
Effective response to the drug problem requires inclusive and accountable institutions of criminal justice, health and social services to work together to provide integrated solutions. Abiola Sholanke, TVC News, Lagos.
Joining me now in the studio is Medical Director and Executive Director, Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministry, Dr. Dokun Adedeji. Thank you for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Now, you have been at the forefront of, driving change when it comes to issues of drug abuse, substance abuse. But then we've seen a rapid, perhaps a rise in trend over the years or in recent years, because this has become worrisome for a lot of persons. So what do you think is at the root of this?
You see, the thing is, the drug problem did not start today. It was there under the ground. But what had happened is availability of so many substances. That's why we don't call it drug abuse again. We call it substance abuse. Because there are things that are not even drugs that are being abused and that cause the same destructive tendencies. And so people began to become experimental. They then concoct all kinds of things that are naturally existing, particularly when you look at drugs of prescription. Who would have thought that anyone would begin to use that as an abusive substance and then to get to a stage where we're in? I think the more we live every day, the more we're going to find more substances of abuse. And that's why it's so important that we begin to deal with it in a more concrete and concerted manner with fundamental strategy.
Now, before we look at dealing with it in a concrete and concerted manner, like you have mentioned, the government tried to intervene, perhaps in the aspect of codeine, where there was a ban on codeine, and then we looked at substances like sniper that is also being consumed by certain persons, and there's also a ban. But how much impact are these interventions making?
You see, the thing that why I'm smiling is the fact we lack knee-jerk responses in Nigeria. We're never down to how to understand the dynamics that undergird something. The next thing we just want to make it disappear. It can't disappear. What you don't deal with fundamentally does not disappear. Let me give you an example of codeine. When it was done, I specifically said it was wrong. I didn't think it was the next proper step to take. Do we understand the chain that this is involved in? How does it come? Who gets it? How does it get out? And why do people do it? If you ban it, what you've just done, let me tell you, before codeine was banned, a bottle used to sell for about 1,000 naira, which was prescription drug. Today, if you know where to go, you can get codeine for between 5,000 and 10,000 naira a bottle. A girl told a young man who deals in drugs in the campus that I want to have my birthday. Could you help me get about 10 bottles of codeine? The boy said, we can pay 10,000. She paid. She paid 100,000, and the boy got her 10 bottles of codeine. Where did he get them from? Ban drop? Forget it. I don't think that is the way to deal with it. Sniper, that is bad. What you just do is to create an underground market for it where people know where to get it and use it as they want.
So how do we deal with this holistically?
You see, the thing to do is we need to sit down to understand, why do people take drugs? Why are these drugs? Why would a Nigerian go to China or India and tell a manufacturer to manufacture tramadol to his own specification and sell on the street? It comes to a value system. Look, until we look holistically at the situation facing Nigeria and the Nigerian youth and Nigerian population, we will not get an answer. The drug is only a symptom of a deeper problem that we have, that we need to face.
All right, Dr. Dokun Adedeji, thank you for your time.
My pleasure, it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Advised to stay off drugs, as it is said to be one of the causes of recent suicide cases.
A non-governmental organization, the Satisfied Soul Initiative, gave this advice at a free medical outreach in Ketu. Correspondent Theophilus Ilama reports.
Nigeria has been consumed by the rising menace of drug abuse. Instead of just being a dot on the consciousness, the tragic phenomenon now cuts across all strata of the society.
It's becoming a terrible thing in our society right now. We've visited pharmacies around here, and the main thing they tell us is drug abuse. You have a lot of youths coming to buy drugs that are not sold over the counter. Children, practically.
It's a common knowledge that youth are mainly engaged in drugs, and it's really affecting their lives. And so it will be very important to educate them so that they can know that drug, being addicted to drug, is not the best thing, and it's not to their best interest.
Once somebody is using a drug outside a doctor's prescription, then we can say he's already abusing that drug. But of course, the typical definition of drugs, the marijuanas, the cocaine, and all of those are still very important. And as a matter of fact, those are those that constitute the main menace to the society and the community.
At the root of the nuisance is the breakdown in societal values. They, however, called on the government to put measures and policies in place so as to stem the tide of drug abuse by youths.
The government can help to create more jobs so that the youths can be taken off the streets. Their minds are profitably engaged in activities that can build them up. Then, of course, we'll see that there will be a rapid decline in drug abuse.
Drug or substance abuse, according to the World Health Organization, is the harmful or hazardous use of psychoactive substances, including alcohol and illicit drugs. This could result in dependence syndrome, which often develops after repeated substance use and strong desire to take drugs. Theophilus Ilama, TVC News, Lagos.
Joining me now is the Executive Director, founder of the African Youth Initiative on Crime Prevention, Chris Ibe. It's good to have you join me in the studio.
Thank you, Mike.
You have been traveling not just across the length and breadth of the country, you've been traveling to other parts of the African continent, reaching out to youth and also, you know, seeing to how to prevent this issue of substance abuse and even human trafficking, all of that. But let us concentrate on substance abuse. How bad is the situation comparative to the last few years that you have also been involved in this fight against abuse?
Well, thank you again, Mike. Let me say that the situation is not getting better. It's not getting better in the sense that all the influencing factors are still there. When you talk factors like unemployment, factors like broken homes, you know, peer influence, you know, they are still there, making young people vulnerable because they are not meaningfully engaged, you know. On the side of the laws too, we've not got adequate laws to actually manage the drug and substance abuse system.
In this case, is it going to be challenging or maybe impossible to eradicate substance abuse or minimize the cases of substance abuse?
Yeah, we should be talking about minimizing. The issue of eradication will be a wild goose chase for now. The beautiful thing is that stakeholders are beginning to respond to this scourge because the level of ravaging is becoming alarming. Families these days, young people abandon their family homes, take solace in rehabilitation centers, not because they love it, but because of their state, you know. And on the side of government, much is not being done, you know. The agency responsible for this is not being funded adequately. Staff, especially the NDLA, who are supposed to supervise, who are supposed to take charge, enforce, you know.
All right, talk to us about your organization. Your activity has been recognized by the United Nations at the time and all of that. How have you been responding to, you know, the effort of reducing substance abuse amongst youth?
Yes, our intervention, you know, has cut across different ages, you know, ages. Let me use the word ages because we actually look at the young people, and according to the African Youth Charter, we are talking about 18 to 35. But we have stepped down to even primary and secondary schools. We just came up with a project, we call it School Intervention Project on Drugs and Substance Abuse.
Is there a revelation that there are younger people now going into substance abuse?
Serious.
Between the age of 10 or 11, 12, 13
serious revelation.
But why is that?
Well, you see the influence, the societal decay. I don't know how to put it. There's a whole lot of societal decay, you know, negative influences. Young people these days have codeine. You see them mix it with coke. They call it codeine diet. Codeine diet. It's kind of a rave. It's kind of something that they use.
It's a vogue right now.
Yes, of course.
Right.
They want to show you that, hey, man, I belong. I know this stuff. You know, but then science has proven that it affects their mental health.
And even stability.
Yes, of course. Right. Because you see them at a time dropping out from school. Even at a tender age, they cannot cope anymore. At home, you see them committing all sorts of crime. You know, stealing money here and there, becoming violent, especially the violent crime is now something you can you know what is happening in Lagos about cultism. You know, they are all influenced by these factors. And as an organization, we have been tackling this, especially with the Nigerian Policing Project, the UNODC. We've been working in partnership to make sure that this menace is reduced.
Thank you very much, Chrissy, but we have to leave you here now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right. You're watching TVC Breakfast. Now, Nigerian youths have been advised to stay off drugs, as it is said to be one of the causes of recent suicide cases.
Correspondent Theophilus Ilama has details.
Nigeria has been consumed by the rising menace of drug abuse. Instead of just being a dot on the consciousness, the tragic phenomenon now cuts across all strata of the society.
It's becoming a terrible thing in our society right now. We've visited pharmacies around here, and the main thing they tell us is drug abuse. You have a lot of youths coming to buy drugs that are not sold over the counter. Children, practically.
It's a common knowledge that youth are mainly engaged in drugs, and it's really affecting their life. And so it will be very important to educate them so that they can know that being addicted to drugs is not the best thing, and it's not to their best interest.
Once somebody is using a drug outside a doctor's prescription, then we can say he's already abusing that drug. But of course, the typical definition of drugs, the marijuanas, the cocaine, and all of those are still very important. And as a matter of fact, those are those that constitute the main menace to the society and the community.
At the root of the nuisance is the breakdown in societal values. They, however, called on the government to put measures and policies in place so as to stem the tide of drug abuse by youths.
The government can help to create more jobs so that the youths can be taken off the streets. Their minds are profitably engaged in activities that can build them up. Then, of course, we'll see that there will be a rapid decline in drug abuse.
Drug or substance abuse, according to the World Health Organization, is the harmful or hazardous use of psychoactive substances, including alcohol and illicit drugs. This could result in dependence syndrome, which often develops after repeated substance use and strong desire to take drugs. Theophilus Ilama, TVC News, Lagos.
Joining me now is the Executive Director, founder of the African Youth Initiative on Crime Prevention, Chris Ibe. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Now, tell us, you are on the field. When you look at the structures in place put in by the government, how effective has it been at tackling these issues?
Well,
in trying to evaluate how Nigeria has fared with dealing with these issues.
Yes, I must tell you that I will repeat my last statement, that much has not been felt. When you talk about structure in the fight against drug and substance abuse in Nigeria, we're talking about the NDLA and the recently inaugurated Presidential Advisory Committee on the Elimination of drug abuse. It's not just creating structures or platform. You talk about how you fund it. Because the cartel, the drug cartel, is let's say $1 trillion cartel business, and you can't be talking about 50 million or 500 million in this kind of struggle.
So how much should we be looking at?
No, I might not necessarily call a particular figure, but then these structures are supposed to be funded. You can't imagine that NDLA has below 5,000 staff.
But that is where your foundation or organization comes in to shock all of these lapses, so to speak.
That is why we are advocating. We cannot employ, can we?
You can't employ.
Definitely we can. So you now see a country of close to 200 million, and you're having less than 5,000 law enforcement agencies in the area of structure.
So it means that we are not ready to fight this head on, is that what you're saying?
We've not even started, not even ready, we've not started. As at 2015, in FCT command, the NDLA had 75 staff. And you know the prevalence of the drug and substance abuse within. You know, we are talking about availability here.
All right.
We are talking about demand, supply reduction. Who are these agencies responsible for this? Is it not NDLA? Is it not NAFDAC? And the recently inaugurated committee? What we are saying is, if government is really interested in the reduction of drug and substance abuse, government must also be ready to fund, to train.
Well, where the funding and the training is not available, there are other means of intervention. Now, for instance, we looked at the fact that the government has looked at banning substances like codeine and even snipers, so to speak. And there's been also issues of where, you know, tons and tons of substances that get into the country are burnt.
I'm not an advocate of banning codeine. Because, you know, in those days, you know, it has its own medicinal value, medical value. Codeine is not a kind of, it's a prescribed drug per se. What we'll be talking about here is regulation. Are you getting what I'm saying? It's regulation. I'm still talking about the issue of funding, because when there is no funding, these officers of these agencies will never be empowered. Capacity development. This is an industry that runs with the speed of light.
And so the government has to run along to beat this industry.
Definitely.
And it takes a lot of funding. Chris Ibe, we have to leave it at this point. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
On TVC
Thank you.
Breakfast.